under your expression.
This is the Yeboaa Show. Hello viewers, welcome to another episode of the Yeboaa Show. We are shooting from the base camp here in Accra, Ghana. And we are here with Tim Swain. Kwesi. So, within your experience, what are some of the things that children of the motherland caught outside who wants to return? What are some of the advice you can give us since you've made that transition to come here? And then you put links to your video because you've spoken to various people so that we will see where to get that knowledge of information from.
Yeah, so I definitely think it depends on your level of exposure to the content if you want to come back. Well, I tell everybody you need to come back. My colleague and I, we believe emphatically that if we're talking about the Western context, every black person born there, in their lifetime, they have to come to the continent. Almost in the same way where if you're a Muslim, like to make it to Mecca. It's like this is our Mecca. And I think that sometimes we can take it for granted because we are on the continent, we know so many people that have done it. But I'll give you an example of how culturally malnourished we are and why, if we're going to talk about, let's say, the bigger concept of liberation in black communities, we have to include reconnecting with the continent as a vehicle within that liberation. I used to teach on a part of town, let's just say it was the hood, right? The bad part of town in the city I was in. And every time before I began my class, I had kids 16 to 24 who were out of school, out of work. These kids were, sometimes 21, 5 children, no job, no education, 23, 3 kids, and 1 on the way. And one of the first things we did was we talked about how you see yourself and how the world sees you. And we did an exercise where we talked about...
Oh, so that Du Bois, double consciousness.
Yes, exactly. And so we did this exercise where we talked about everything we know about ourselves comes from a couple of major sources. That's media, family, religion, and education.
Yes.
So we put these big labels on the board and we asked the young black kids, what does the media say about you? Your family, society, education. 99% was all negative.
Yes.
The only caveat was family. So then the next part was, we looked at, let's go back in time. Before 1619, and so for folks who may not know that date, that's significant. That's when they say, some of the first enslaved Africans arrived in the colonies at that time.
I think yesterday I was speaking to the guys at Jamestown and went to James Fort. So that was from 1619 Jamestown here in Ghana to Jamestown, Virginia. And according to history, if you Google it, you'll find that the first person that stepped foot was a female. Yes, it was a woman. They don't know the name. It's something that I'm still trying to figure out. They don't know the name. They don't know where she came from. So that part of history is kind of lost. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many caveats to history. So it depends on who's telling the story. Those individuals, somebody was always telling their story. The point I'm getting to is this: when we went back before the enslaved Africans came to the Americas. When we went way back to just learning about the different empires, right? And learning who you were before you got here. What you saw in the eyes of those youth was almost like this hope being restored. And that was in 1 or 2 hours in 1 or 2 classes. So imagine what would happen if they came to the continent and they saw themselves not as, I don't want to say, words because I don't want, but not as all the negative labels that was put on them. And when we bring people, one of the things we do is we do almost like this kind of like ethnography where people just sit and we let them make observations. So we'll go to a crowded place and we'll have our people come with a pen and a pad and say, make observations. How are people treating these people? Are they elders? Are they like? And we just make observations about the culture, and then we go back and we have conversations about it. So to take those youth who have this light in their eyes to see who they were before they were enslaved Africans. Now imagine what would happen if they came to the continent. And that is absolutely liberating. So I think the first thing I would do is tell people, yes, we have to become educated, that our history didn't just appear in 1619, but we had a history long before that. And the second thing is, I don't know how you're going to get here, but you got to come to the continent. Even if it's for a 7-day trip, plan it, come. It can transform your life.
It's possible.
Oh yeah, because we spend money how we want to spend money.
That's true.
So it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Will come.
So in a sense, spend money to gain knowledge, to gain wisdom. Spend money that will actually bring you more money in a sense. Because if you know yourself, if you're grounded, then you know how to think and apply and get to that next level that you need to. Wow.
It's true. You know, I think about it like this. When I went to school, went to a phenomenal school in Texas, but at that time, undergraduate education, my degree was about $45,000. That's how much it cost for my 4-year degree, maybe a little bit more. And honestly, most of the classes that I took were nonsense classes. So $40,000 for a bunch of classes.
And get a paper.
And you get a piece of paper. Now it's needed, right? It's needed to enter into certain avenues in life. But a trip to Ghana, depending on where you're from, may cost you between $15,000 and maybe $5,000, depending on how much you want to do when you get here. And that experience would transform the rest of your life.
So you come in with an open mind to learn. And what you say, and I'm going to add to it, is that when you step foot here that you're going to learn and you are open-minded, as you said earlier, the Creator gives you the steps, the things you need to learn to ground you. You know, the funny thing is, I went to school, did all these things, and I did my graduate studies in education, and storytelling was my my focus.
Wow.
Because as an African, we are oral storytellers. So if I'm still going to do the storytelling and I contextualize it, how best can I tell the African story? Through my poetry, through my conversations, change the narrative. But before doing that, I need to even come back and learn more about who I am. So every trip to Ghana is about learning. I don't know it all, because when you meet an elder and as a child sit at the foot of an elder, when they are speaking from an ancestral knowledge base. I thought I knew the history of the Akamus because that's my maternal. And I got schooled by the chief himself, Nana III. He gave me more history about the land that I even knew.
You know, we were mentioning something I want you to get back to, which is you were talking about names and how important names are. And you were telling me something about the names of even things like you said that you don't even like saying the Asante. Ashanti, right? And so I want you to explain that to me again, because I mean, what you said was really interesting, and I want to hear that again. Just the names and how we don't recognize when we're calling names what the real meaning is.
That is right. So the Ashanti is Ashanti, is a mispronunciation by the English, by the British, of Asante. Asante. When you ask any person, who are you, or any person from that region, the person will say, me Asante, me. I am an Asante, not Ashanti. That is a mispronunciation. And the word Asante, Asa means war, Inti is coming together. People brought together by war. and there's a deep, a story to it that goes to Konfanoche and the building and bringing of the states back. I don't think I'm going to go to that depth, but I want people to understand that even the name Asante has a story to it. Asa Inti. The African does not name just because it names. Every name has a narrative. It has a story of how the people came together. And there is also the narrative of, for instance, if you go to Jamaica, the Akan people within the Akan language believe that Jamaica is Jamayaka. Jamayaka meaning that when we are through the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of Akan speaking people, and I learned yesterday where in James Fort, where the Asante were brought through the tunnel underneath. Many people died to James Fort and shipped or cargoed over as enslaved people. And many of them that ended up in Jamaica were Asante speaking. They stopped that and mixed everybody so that the mind is not equal. You don't speak the same language, you are able to divide and conquer. Inti, from the language, the Akan people believe that Jamayaka, which means perhaps we are here to stay, we cannot retrace our steps. Yaka means we are stuck. It's Jamayaka, over years, it became Jamaica. Now that is the Akan interpretation of the word Jamayaka, which makes sense because every Akan language has a meaning, it has a narrative to it. One thing that I'm going to stress on, which is for those of us born in Ghana, looking at our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, the African Americans or African Canadians or Black Canadians and Jamaicans, calling them Akata. Yes, I have a problem with that. Because to say somebody Neni Akata means the person does not see. It is derogatory term. And I personally have a problem with that. And these are some of the languages that we use, that we denigrate ourselves without even realizing. These are some of the languages of divide and conquer.